organic or handmade seed pads. The glasses are produced of hand-cut wine bottles. Can you just tell a little bit what you did with your team on your own? That the night before the opening was more or less horror for you and your team. And in your book you just write, if we meet once, you can ask me about it. So how was it? Can you tell us a little bit how?
There was like kind of like a standing ovation. Like everyone was like so happy and like extremely grateful for the experience. If you just don't put your kitchen or don't put bin in your kitchen, I mean, you are forced to be more creative, because even if you happen to have some kind of food waste or something, but oh wait, like, you know, there is no bin, so I mean, what you gonna do? You know, like the necessity is the mother of the invention, they say. But first thing, stop calling it waste, because it's only a waste because you call it waste. So, you know, if you put it in a bin, then that is it. It's just gonna be a waste forever. You know, and there is no such a thing as byproducts. That is a quote from Chef Matthew Orlando, because everything is just a product, no byproduct. You know, so if you start with that even if you peel a vegetable or you trim down something, then just don't call it waste, right? It's the same ingredient. It's like a cucumber peel is coming from the same vegetable as the cucumber itself, right? It's one piece. For example, like pineapple tops, you know, like there is little to no nutritional value. It can cause problems with the digestive systems. So it's very hard to reuse. It's not essential. It's organic waste, but I wouldn't call it essentially as food waste, because I mean, you can't eat it. So you just don't worry about that. You know, the same with the pineapple skin. There is flavor in it though, but you can't eat it. So you try to extract the flavor as much as you can. You boil it, you cook with it, you create a syrup from it, you ferment it, you make a drink with it. But eventually you discard it anyway, because the pineapple skin isn't digestible once again for humans.
Yeah, I totally agree. But the difficult part, I think, is to be able to decide if you do your preparation, cutting and so on, what is edible and what not. In your book, you described a very, very long list, about 50 to 100 pages of your book you spend on explaining about all the different types of vegetables or fruits, what kind of peel you can eat and what kind of peel you cannot eat.
Can you eat like apple seeds? Well, you can. Not recommend it though. You know, like that can kill you too. And you never know what you're allergic to, you know, like if it's a thing that you never eaten before. So apple seeds did kill people before too. Make sure that you're using like organic bananas wherever possible. Or if you cannot, then like soak it in a warm water with some baking powder. So it like helps to get the pesticides out and like rinse them, you know, so that it's not like that many chemicals in it, if any at all. But banana peels, like they need to be chopped up small pieces because they're very fibrous and they're hard to chew on. But once you do that, just saute them on a pan, like pan fried, like put a dash of soy sauce or something on them. You're not gonna taste like banana at all. But if you like season it well, the farmer told me that there is a 1 liter bottle of a chemical that's supposed to be diluted to 1,000 liters of water to spray the crop with it. They just put the bottle directly onto the vegetable. So there is like 1,000 times stronger pesticides than would normally be. When you go to the market, for example, like you don't want to buy like cauliflower is a great example because they love like cauliflower when it's white. For some reason in Cambodia, like the whiter it is, the better it is. But how do you achieve such a white cauliflower, which is like not natural at all? Just bleach it. It's like it's literally sprayed with bleach, with the stuff that you clean your toilet with. When you eat the cauliflower, you see the tang on your tongue. You know, like it's like almost like spicy a little bit. It's literally burning your mouth. Using everything, but if you look even further, then it doesn't start at the cooking. You know, it goes back. It was distributed to your restaurant. It was stocked somewhere in a warehouse or in the fridges, also the distributor. Then it was grown, and it was also distributed from the farm to there. And the seeds were sown, and the fields they were working on. You know, so the cycle is like really long at the beginning. You know, like someone was watering the vegetable, they were growing it, they were distributing it, they pack it, put it in in a cardboard box, in a plastic box, and they like to bring it to a restaurant, and then your chefs handle it, you stir it, and then you peel it, you cook it, and bam, and then you waste it. If I want to have a burger, then I know for a fact that I cannot get a good quality local ground beef in this city, and I'm not willing to eat anything else. So I would rather have a Beyond Burger at home than buying some cheap beef.
Yeah, but you explain in your book very well how much effort you put into that pumpkin. Yeah, you treat it like meat, and I think this is what is my take-home message from your book to look at the vegetable as it would be meat or fish. Yeah, to treat it the same way, and then you get more taste, more flavor out of it. Welcome to Meirer Talks Trash. What trash is on the menu today?
I cook without food waste.
And who are you? What's your name?
My name is Vojtech Vegh, and I'm a zero waste and plant-based chef. I specialize on reducing food waste in the kitchens, and I also do consulting for restaurant and hospitality businesses in food waste.
Okay. And when did you start with your food waste cooking career, or from your childhood in the school? When did you decide to become a chef?
Oh, well, becoming a chef was more like an accident. It's basically I just picked a college on random. I had no real connection to food in there. But as I was getting more experience, especially abroad and working in different countries in kitchens, I gained like more interest in food, actually, like cooking. So I was like very keen to learn more and to get some more experience. And once I spent enough time in kitchens, I also got really interested in food waste, as this was an increasingly important topic in kitchens. So I switched my focus on food waste cooking roughly 4 to 5 years ago, when I was really curious about how to reduce food waste in kitchens and whether that amount is really necessary. So it was about the same time I got also interested in cooking more plant-based, so reducing the meat consumptions and using the animal products in kitchens. So yeah, that is 4 or 5 years roughly.
And you've written a book, Surplus, right? This is why I got to know about you, and I heard about that book, and I thought, hey, I have to read that book. And really, congratulations to your book. I can just suggest it to everyone out there. Read it. It's really easy to read, but with a lot of content. You can learn a lot of it. You can learn how to reduce food waste. You learn how to cook with vegan, but that it also tastes well, not just a salad. You learn that vegan is much more than a salad. And I already mentioned that the book is focusing on food waste and on a vegan restaurant. Or you write a lot about your vegan restaurant in Cambodia. Yeah? Can you tell a little bit about your book? Would you define it as a cookbook, or as a book about your restaurant in Cambodia, or about the lifestyle of reducing food waste? What is it?
It's definitely not a cookbook, because there is only a handful of recipes, mostly for inspiration or an example of how to use ingredients. I say it's a bit of a bit, and it's mostly like a mindset setting book, a bit of a thought-provoking questions including in there. So I combine zero waste ideas and plant-based ideas of why is that an important topic and how to put all that into practice. And I also, of course, start with a few stories from my restaurant in Cambodia back then, which was zero waste and vegan restaurant. So what does it take to run a kitchen without a bin, for example? And yeah, the book is mostly focused on the topic of food waste in professional kitchens. So I'd say it's really for chefs that could put it in a use best.
Well, let's talk about your restaurant in Cambodia. How did it come that you're from Slovakia, right?
Yeah.
Like my dog, I just introduced it to Vojtech. How did it come that you open a restaurant in Cambodia?
I was traveling a lot in Asia during the past 10 years, and I've been to Cambodia multiple times. And since I always kind of wanted to have my own restaurant, when I was visiting Siem Reap, the town in Cambodia, it really came to me that could be the perfect place for such a restaurant, because there is a really great community of local business people, and there is a heavy focus on reducing waste of every kind too. So there is an interest in that topic. And since there is the business conditions are quite good too in Cambodia, that I just thought to myself that I can actually do it here. Why not? So I started working on that idea, and until I polished it down, it took me roughly 2 years to plan the project and to create everything. from scratch, basically, like to build a restaurant too. And yeah, I mean, it was like a perfect like experience, and it was like lots of learning, and I just loved it. I could actually prove that it is possible to open a zero waste restaurant, not only in terms of food waste, but in terms of like other waste too. And it happened to be vegan too, which was not my intention at the beginning, but there was just not enough good or high quality meat products in Cambodia, and I was not willing to import anything or use any lower quality ingredients. So I just went in like it just happened to be a vegan and zero waste restaurant.
Well, and the tricky part is that you more or less organized most of it. You said it took you 2 years to set it up, yeah. But you in your book you write that you more or less organized most of it out of UK, out of Norway. I think was your last step was in Norway, right? Or
that was a very brief visit when I went for like an internship to Norway, but only been there for 3 days because I had to like fly back to Cambodia because I already had found a locale in the space for the restaurant in Cambodia. So I decided to leave Norway. And yeah, I was traveling a lot in between Europe and Asia back then. I was still like working in the UK full time for some time while I was rebuilding the space for the restaurant. And I was just like kept traveling back and forth between Cambodia and Europe for roughly this time for 2 years, perhaps until I finally like moved to Cambodia, like actually having an apartment there and everything. So that was like a very, very busy period, and it was like there's like lots of work and time behind that.
And with what was your budget for your restaurant? Because when you describe how you found the location and the building and then designed the interior of the restaurant, you don't expect at all what you see here in this picture. So how did you manage to do it? With what budget? What budget did you have to design this beautiful restaurant?
I won't tell you the numbers, but it was like really lower than it was roughly like 10 times less than it would cost me back in Europe, even in Slovakia. So the most of the expenses went towards the reconstruction, the refurbishment of the space, because I ripped down the space completely from the floor to ceiling and rebuilt the space entirely. And then like buying in the equipment and the furniture that was like requiring the most of the funds. And then the running costs were low, partly because of the zero waste concept. So it required like building a zero waste restaurant is like expensive at the beginning. You need like lots of finances at the beginning, but you need that much less finances than on a month-to-month basis. Like the running costs are lower, while the starting costs are higher.
And what did you do with the help of local companies? I think you have organic or handmade seed pads. The glasses are produced of hand cut wine bottles. Can you just tell a little bit what you did with your team on your own?
I wanted, when I wanted to serve like a zero waste food, I wanted to make like complete sense in that restaurant. So not just like giving you great food in like whatever space, but I was like focusing on like bringing value to like Cambodia and like to the society and community in the town as much as possible. So like supporting local producers, farmers and growers and all kind of distributors too. And also like showing and promoting their work. So I wanted to like make that surplus restaurant a space that where like everything comes together and it like fall into piece and like makes the perfect sense. So that's why I was focusing like on waste in general, not only food waste, but like all kind of waste. So I went like as deep down as you mentioned, like even the seed pads had to be like, they were made from like waste from a garment factory that they were turned like handmade woven into seed pads by a woman who needed support, for example. So these are like small social companies and enterprises who are like producing these kind of products, which is like really cool in Cambodia that there is availability of these kind of products. I had like all my furniture was from like a refurbished local wood that was like remade into the furniture. Like the glasses, as you said, they were like hand cut old wine bottles from like one of the other restaurants, and even I was collecting that for the same purpose. Even the staff T-shirts were like handmade from like fabric waste from the capital of Cambodia. So like every little detail on everything in the restaurant, which was possible to achieve back then, It was like, it had to be. I just had to have it. Like, back then I had the mindset, like, no matter what it costs, I mean, if it's available, then I just gotta have it.
Yeah, and can you tell us a little bit more about Cambodia? I was traveling to China, to Southeast Asia, but unfortunately never to Cambodia. I just read that Cambodia has 50 million inhabitants. I think almost 97%. So the main religion is Buddhism, and the tourism, I think, is the second biggest industry sector.
At least it was.
It was, yeah. Well, hopefully it will be soon again. But how is it to open a restaurant in Cambodia? What is the typical tourist? What is the tourist expecting to see in Cambodia?
I was focused with my target market was a bit of a higher end tourists, not backpackers. Because Cambodia attracts really lots of budget travelers and backpackers because it's a very cheap country compared to the surrounding countries like Thailand and Malaysia. So you really have like lots of budget travelers, but I mean it's like it was gaining like a good amount of, I'd say, like luxury travelers or even budget travelers, or even the hotels and the hospitality industry was like adapting to that trend in Cambodia. So it's something that is growing in there. So like, you know, opening a restaurant, there is really lots of like foreign owned businesses in Cambodia, and as long as you have like a good concept and you know your target market, I mean like it's just like anywhere else, you know, like you need to know what you're doing. Like really focus on like where you want your customers to come from. So that wasn't a big of an issue. Like most of my customers or guests of the restaurant were foreign. There were rarely any locals, unfortunately, unless the foreign bosses brought their staff over. No, that was, I think, the only time that Cambodians came to my restaurants. Because I mean, yeah, honestly, it was like a bit more expensive. I don't think it's something that was affordable, unfortunately. For locals. And
you wrote that you had this deadline when you wanted to open the restaurant, and you said that you will have a 10-course menu, right? And that the night before the opening was more or less horror for you and your team. And in your book you just write, if we meet once, you can ask me about it. So how was it? Can you tell us a little bit how?
It was the busiest service I ever had in my life. It was like, you know, like basically the staff just say that I needed, like, they just not gonna come because they just can't work in there. I had like interns whose parents did not allow them to work in the kitchens because they were like shaming them for working in the kitchen, which is really sad, I think. So I was left with like me, one chef, and 2 waiters, and I had like 30 guests, which means like 300 plates from a small kitchen. It was all really well planned until I learned that not even the kitchen porter gonna turn up. So we didn't have a dishwasher. We were literally 4 people, like smashing out 300 plates. I don't know. I just given up on that. I was just like laughing all that. There was no point in rushing anymore. I mean, we've been so behind that the guests who came, like, who initially wanted to leave by 9 p.m., they left after 11 p.m. because we were just like so extremely behind with all the tasting courses, and I felt like it's horrible. I was just wishing that I won't see guests leaving the tables because they are just like can't be there for too long. So I was like horrified in the kitchen, like being afraid to walk out to the dining room. And once we finally sent out the last courses, and I went out to the dining room to like kind of apologize to everyone. Like there was like kind of like a standing ovation. Like everyone was like so happy and like extremely grateful for the experience. And I was like, I didn't know how to react to that because I really wasn't expecting people like be happy after all that I put them through. Like it's such a long dinner, you know, it took like 45 hours for us to like smash that out. And you know, so like eventually it turned out all great, and I was like super grateful. I'm never gonna forget that ever in my life. And I just never forget. I was like all teary-eyed, emotional, like by the tables that like really happy with the people that they enjoyed it so much, and that it wasn't actually like as bad as I initially thought back in the kitchen. So that was like a massive experience, and it's just like it's fun looking back at that times.
Yeah, you said looking back. Well, I don't want to explain it myself. I ask you please to explain it. But what happened? So you said you look back. You're now back in Slovakia.
Yeah.
How did it end, and why did it end? Yeah.
We had some like I'd say like urgent personal issues that I was dealing with in Slovakia. So took me some time to work that through. And as I was just like weighing my options, I really came to the conclusion that it didn't make sense to me to stay in Cambodia any longer, and I really like kind of had to return to Slovakia. So instead of like keeping the restaurant and like moving back to Slovakia and trying to operate a restaurant from a different country, like, you know, in Asia, I just figured out that the best option will be to sell the restaurant, just get over it. We had a great time. It was a great success. So I decided to sell the restaurant, close the business, and like kind of move back to Slovakia and like perhaps start all over again or start something entirely new.
So, congratulations to what you have achieved here. You describe it in your book. I just can continue suggesting reading your book, buying the book on Amazon or wherever you find it on your webpage, because if you read it, you really feel the pressure you describe of opening the restaurant, and then you've achieved your huge goal. And then quite early you decide to sell it and move on with your life. You have achieved that milestone. Okay, let's do the next project. Yeah. So
yeah,
congratulations, and really makes fun to read what you have achieved here. You've explained already. You decided to, although you're not a vegan, eating vegan, right? You also eat meat.
Yeah, I'm not.
But you've decided.
Very rarely.
Pardon?
Very rarely, but
yeah. But although you're not vegetarian or vegan, you decided to open a vegan restaurant and a zero waste restaurant. You said, or you wrote that you more or less have no waste bin. You have a waste bin for some plastic from your suppliers, but how did you do it without a waste bin?
Since I never had a waste bin, I didn't, because I believe that we designed waste into the system that we have now because we accept it. But when I was creating the concept and the system for the restaurant, I didn't design the waste into the system. So I didn't buy a waste bin. So I didn't have a waste bin. So because there was simply no waste. But eventually, it was really hard. Like, Cambodia and Asia in general allows plastic on everything. So as much as I was trying to avoid like any kind of plastic in the restaurant, it turned out to be impossible because there was always somehow some piece of plastic turning up on something. So I had to set up like a small cardboard box under the sink. Like it was like an accidental waste that just happened to be. But I managed to recycle that in a local small company that was like melting it down and like creating new products from that. So I didn't put it in a bin. Eventually, it was like good. But like if you just don't put your kitchen or don't put bin in your kitchen, you are forced to be more creative because even if you happen to have some kind of food waste or something, but there is no bin, so what you gonna do? Like the necessity is the mother of the invention, they say. So you don't have a bin. You got to do something with it, right? So even my staff learned it that way. Like there is no bin, so they weren't asking me questions like, "Oh, what we can do with that, chef?" They just figured it out. But mostly that situation shouldn't happen because as you're planning, you have to like think about like every little part of ingredients and everything that comes into the kitchen and have a plan for it, like what you're gonna do with it, how you reuse it, whether there is something that has to go in a bin or can you recycle it yourself or can you distribute it somewhere else, or just think about everything. It all comes down to planning because like you can only create like a really good zero waste system or a plan if you have like a really good plan at the beginning and if you really know like what you want to do and how you can do it.
Well, I think the viewers and listeners want to know more how you achieve to reduce food waste, because if you cook something, you always have preparation waste, then you have maybe overproduction. Maybe you as a chef really much focused on reducing food waste, achieve more or less to have no overproduction at all, or if you have overproduction, manage to use it on the next day, and in the end you have leftovers, plate waste. So maybe plate waste is something different because if someone has it on his or her plate, it's tricky. But you do a lot with your preparation waste, typical preparation waste, and to maybe talk about that a little bit in detail, I found I think about 5 quotes in your book. I would like to go talk about in detail now. So maybe start with the first one. The first step to reducing your food waste, change the mindset. What do you think? You described it already a little bit. What do you think? How can we change the mindset concerning food waste? What is your suggestion?
Well, first thing, stop calling it waste, because it's only a waste because you call it waste. So if you put it in a bin, then that is it. It's just gonna be a waste forever. And there is no such a thing as byproducts. That is a quote from Chef Matthew Orlando, because everything is just a product, no byproduct. So if you start with that even if you peel a vegetable or you trim down something, then just don't call it waste, right? It's the same ingredient. It's like a cucumber peel is coming from the same vegetable as the cucumber itself, right? It's one piece. So you decide to separate it with a peeler, and then you call it waste. That doesn't make any sense. Just use everything that you have. Like changing the mindset is like the crucial part of reducing your food waste. Because the best thing that you can do is basically just that is the model of the prevention. Basically, if you during the preparation, if you don't create waste, that is the best you can do, because then you don't need to reduce your food waste because you don't have any, right? Because it's really sometimes it sounds simple, but it takes some time to get used to that. It takes some time to practice that. But I think it's really something that's like very valuable skill, or something that worth learning. Because if you manage to make that your standard of working with ingredients without creating any waste, then I think that is a very valuable skill in the kitchens.
Then the next quote: if the ingredient is edible, don't call it waste. Waste is only waste because you label it so. If it's edible, it belongs on the plate. What do you think about term waste again?
Food waste really is something that holds a nutritional value, is edible, and holds flavor. So, for example, like pineapple tops, there is little to no nutritional value. It can cause problems with the digestive systems. So it's very hard to reuse. It's not essential. It's organic waste, but I wouldn't call it essentially as food waste, because you can't eat it. So you just don't worry about that. The same with the pineapple skin. There is flavor in it though, but you can't eat it. So you try to extract the flavor as much as you can. You boil it, you cook with it, you create a syrup from it, you ferment it, you make a drink with it. But eventually you discard it anyway, because the pineapple skin isn't digestible once again for humans. So that is not waste. So just be careful with what we're really calling waste. So you can have a food bin in the kitchens full of not edible waste or spoilage or something that's gone off or whatever. For whatever reason it's not edible. That is fine, because there's nothing you can do with it anymore. There's no saving it. So you just don't worry about that. But worry about trimmings. Worry about the spoilage in your fridge. Worry about the overproduction, because that is not essential. It's essential to throw away something that you can't eat, but it's not essential to throw away something that is fully edible and digestible for humans. So as chefs, we're always focusing on flavors and creating as much value, putting as much value on a plate as possible. So putting any flavor on other plates than the plate itself, that is waste. If there is a flavor, if there is nutritional value, then it's waste. Then you should eat it.
Yeah, I totally agree. But the difficult part, I think, is to be able to decide if you do your preparation, cutting, and so on, what is edible and what not. In your book, you described a very, very long list, about 50 to 100 pages of your book you spend on explaining about all the different types of vegetables or fruits, what kind of peel you can eat and what kind of peel you cannot eat. Yeah. Or for example, I remember the story from my mother. She was eating, I think, apricot kernels. Yeah. And was eating too much, and luckily my grandmother saw that and gave her milk to vomit, otherwise she would be dead. Yeah, so you have to be careful what you eat and what you not eat. You should know what you're doing. Yeah,
humans have a good system for that, because travel back 100,000 years ago, when we were running in the forests, your body would not allow you to eat something that's poisonous, because you just know if it doesn't feel right, doesn't smell right, doesn't taste right, you're not gonna put that in your mouth. But we lost kind of that sense of we are not sure anymore, because there's so many information and so many data around us all the time that we aren't just sure anymore on our own. We can't decide like what is safe for us and what is not. So Google is your best friend all the time. Unless you have like a good book or something which like good resources on that topic, then Google is your best friend in everything. If you're not sure, just Google it. Takes 10 seconds. Can you eat like apple seeds? Well, you can. Not recommended though. You know, like that can kill you too. And you never know what you're allergic to. You know, like if it's a thing that you never eaten before. So apple seeds did kill people before too. So just use caution and mostly like use your senses. If it doesn't feel right, then just don't do it. It's like you always prioritize like food safety before like food waste. I mean, like you create 100 grams of waste, but I mean you save your life eventually, right? So I mean that is a good deal. So you like always use your senses. So like don't do anything that doesn't feel right. If you feel like if it's not edible, don't push it. Just whatever, like safety and your health is always the number one priority.
But maybe we could just discuss one example. For example, a banana peel. Yeah? If you would ask most of the people, can you eat that? They would all say no, you can't. Yeah, but you can. How would you cook with a banana peel? What can you do with it?
It's a really great ingredient. Make sure that you're using like organic bananas wherever possible, or if you cannot, then like soak it in a warm water with some baking powder, so it like helps to get the pesticides out. Like rinse them, so that it's not like damaging chemicals in it, if any at all. But banana peels, like they need to be chopped up small pieces because they're very fibrous and they're hard to chew on. But once you do that, just saute them on a pan, like pan fried, like put a dash of soy sauce or something on them. You're not gonna taste like banana at all. Though if you like season it well, it's gonna. Some people use it like a bacon, like a vegan kind of a bacon, like a banana peel bacon on a pan. Yeah, they really do that. And like the simplest thing that you can do is just like put them in the freezer. Like they're gonna go black, but they're gonna go also soft, and the sugar gonna break down in them. So it's really good to use them then in the smoothies or like use them when you're making a banana cake. I always make like banana peel cake because I just chop up the whole banana and just like blend it into the cake. And like keep it in your freezer. There's like smoothies, chop them up, blend it up, saute, pan fry, bake it. Just use like you would use the other vegetable. Like it's so easy.
Yeah, it sounds so crazy, but yeah, I really have the goal to really start doing what you preach in your book. What is possible? I have a kind of resistance, but I think I really want to try. Yeah, so I'm curious how the result will be. I think I will ask my wife to support me here because she's the marvelous cook and I'm not. But yeah, you mentioned maybe just before we continue with the quotes, you mentioned make sure you use organic vegetables, organic fruits, and in Cambodia you write that you had trouble to find organic vegetables and fruits. Can you explain a little bit why it is a problem in Cambodia and how did you manage to do it?
So Cambodia has like major agricultural problems, not only because of the bad quality of the soil, but they make it even worse with the heavy use of chemicals. So since the use of pesticides and chemicals is not regulated in Cambodia, almost anyone has access to them. There's almost like a black market for that. So like anyone can buy. And if you combine that with a really bad education, to no education whatsoever in Cambodia, people don't know what they're using or what they are doing. So, true story, the farmer told me that there is a 1 liter bottle of a chemical that's supposed to be diluted to 1,000 liters of water to spray the crop with it. They just put the bottle directly onto the vegetable. So there is like 1,000 times stronger pesticides than would normally be.
But doesn't it kill the vegetable?
Apparently not. I don't know. But that is a true story that the people in the villages did that. They were like watering the plants directly with the chemicals without diluting it. So when you go to the market, for example, like you don't want to buy like cauliflower is a great example because they love like cauliflower when it's white. For some reason in Cambodia, like the whiter it is, the better it is. But how do you achieve such a white cauliflower, which is like not natural at all? Just bleach it. There is like it's literally sprayed with bleach, with the stuff that you clean your toilet with. when you eat the cauliflower, you see the tang on your tongue. You know, like it's like almost like spicy a little bit. It's literally burning your mouth, and that is what's sold on the market sometimes in Cambodia. You know, I'm not saying like everything is like that, but the majority is like that. The second thing is like I only had like one single supplier in my restaurant because it was the only one in the town that was certified organic. And it's extremely hard to get something certified organic in Cambodia because the same issue like goes with the rice paddies or the rice fields, which is like a popular thing in Cambodia. Like there's rice fields all around, but since the rice fields use like lots of water, there is even more pesticides flowing in that water. And once the rice field overflows, or in a rainy season, for example, it leaches out to the fields like maybe 10 kilometers away. So even if you think that you are growing organic or something, but unless you have like you have tested your soil or you have certifications, then it's just not. And it really makes it hard or like next to impossible to grow like high quality or like these kind of things in Cambodia because of the heavy use of chemicals without any regulation, which is leaching out to like the already bad quality soil makes it even worse. So the soil is low in fertility, and then everything has to be imported, and the local stuff is unfortunately oftentimes worse quality than the imported stuff. It's a road to nowhere, So it's really the education and the regulations that need to be fixed in Cambodia.
I just can imagine how hard it was for you to find the right, vegetables and fruits for your restaurant. But yeah, what I also wanted to ask you about, what I forgot to ask you about your restaurant in Cambodia, you said you put everything. You did not have a waste bin, but you had a compost for everything which was not edible. Yeah, and as it was a vegan restaurant, you had no bones, you had no shells, fish shells, but normally you would put that on the compost as well. And if you have the other things that are not eatable, pineapple top and so on, was it compostable? Because if it's not eatable at all, then it's also very hard to compost it. Because I'm an anaerobic digestion expert, and there we always explain, well, the anaerobic digestion plant can treat everything that you can eat as well. Yeah? But if you just feed it with non-eatable stuff, could you compost it?
Yes, because the reason it's not edible for humans is because our digestive system is not made for that. You can't digest like extremely fibrous things. I don't know, like dry stuff and like these kind of things. But another big digester is not like your digestive system. It breaks down. So unless, of course, there is like bad chemicals or something in it, I believe. I'm not an expert in that field. But you can compost that and then use it as a compost in your garden, for example, because that's much better. Because the reasons why it's not edible for humans are very different than the reasons why you can compost something.
Great. Maybe we move to the third quote. You said, or you wrote that, right in this very moment, you're most likely to have everything you need to reduce your food waste. What do you think about that, or could you explain that a little bit, please?
What exactly I mean with that is that people tend to look for solutions outside them, or think about solutions as something that they don't have at the moment. So, in order to reduce my food waste, I need to buy this, I need to get this, maybe I need to hire someone else, or I need to do whatever, I need to spend more time and blah, blah, blah. But you really have like everything that you need to reduce your food waste is right in here. It's especially your mindset and the way you look at ingredients, and it's changing your priorities too. So you don't need any specialized equipment, technologies, or any major investments. That is entirely optional and up to you. But anything that you want to do regarding your food, you can do that in any kitchens, in any part in the world, in the tiniest kitchen without basically like any high-end equipment. You can reduce your waste as you are right now in that very second, because the prevention is like the most important step in reducing the food waste. So simply making the decision of not creating food waste is the most that you can make in reducing your food waste. And that is something that you are able to make a decision right now. So basically you have everything you need right now.
Let's go to the next. Food waste is a human problem. Humans created it, and only humans can eliminate it. And when I read that the first time, I immediately thought of Michael Braungart. he always talks about, or very often talks or explains the example of a cherry tree, where he says nature isn't efficient. Yeah, a cherry tree has thousands of blossoms, and maybe just one of them is the origin of a new tree. So the nature can be inefficient, yeah, if it's a perfect cycle. But how did the humans disturb that cycle? What is your thought on that?
It's just simply that we don't appreciate ingredients enough. Like we look at it as a product. So we created a food waste because, the nature doesn't create food waste. It might waste nutrition or something by accident, but it's a perfect cycle, as you say. There's nothing wrong with that. But we are overproducing at a production level. So we produce way more than we are able to consume combined, while half of third of the world is starving, and we are overflowing with food. So we are creating food waste simply out of something it's kind of a luxury problem to have, to have food waste. So of course only humans can eliminate it, because we have designed the food waste into our systems. Because the food waste isn't necessary. Maybe a tiny bit happens for something, but speaking of kitchen environment, it's only you can eliminate it, because we really turn into we describe fancy with something that is not available to us all the time. So we trim everything down to a perfect piece, and I call everything waste and put it in a bin, and then we complain about the food waste. Nonsense. So it's a human decision that needs to happen in the first place. It's again, we're going back to the mindset again. Because if you want to, and if it's your priority, then you're just gonna make a decision, and you're gonna find your way to reduce your food waste. But if you don't, then not the best technology or the best investment will ever help you. Because if you simply don't want to, then it's just never gonna happen.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I'm just thinking, we here in the garden we have an apple tree, huh? Maybe with 100 apples every summer. If I don't eat all of the 100 apples, it doesn't matter, because they just fall down and they compost. Huh? The problem is, if I order 100 bananas from South America and I don't eat all of them, I have a big backpack of CO2, a huge CO2 footprint, because of all the transport and so on. So what is your approach to reduce that problem? Is it just buy local, or what suggestion would you have?
It's not essentially buy only local, but just eat everything that you buy, because the only real solution to food waste is to eat it. The food is there for the human consumption. So compost is not a solution. It helps, but it's not a solution to food waste. You need to eat your food waste. So always buy, speaking about home environment or households, buy as much as you can eat. Speaking about professional environment, order as many as you can sell. You should know your numbers roughly, and you should have preservation techniques, for example, drying or any other backup things, or either visitor staff meals or whatever that you can do if overproduction happens. But there is really no sense of in over-ordering too much, or buying way more, or these things that people do, buying something just in case. Just in case of what?
Yeah.
There is shops open all the time, almost in every corner of the world. You have access to things literally never had before. So there is food all around us, and we still live in this kind of a scarcity mindset where we are filling our fridges with food that we already know we have no chance to eat in a few days. So that is the problem. Again, the prevention. Just don't buy that much, because you need way less than you actually think.
Yeah, and never go shopping hungry, right? Because
exactly,
no good idea. Yeah.
When you're hungry, you're just gonna buy everything, and when you get home, you eat the one stuff, and then you're not gonna look at the other ones again.
Yeah, as soon as you're not hungry anymore. If you make the effort to use every gram of the black truffle, you can make the same effort to use every bit of other vegetables too. Well, of course it's a number. It's a question of if truffle is, 100,000 times more worth than a carrot, it's treated differently. But you say we should get rid of economic point of view, just focus on the vegetable itself. But you're a kitchen consultant. You could consult chefs. Is it possible? Because even now after COVID or still during COVID, they have to try to survive with their restaurant, yeah, and they rather throw away a kilogram of carrots than a kilogram of black truffles. So
you don't throw a kilogram of black truffles, but you don't throw away not even a gram of black truffle, because you're really saving it. I've seen that in every kitchens. You really save every little crumble because there is flavor in it, and you're gonna use it in a sauce, use it in an oil, or use it for something. Now calculate the cost of 1 gram of black truffle, and then calculate the cost of a kilo of local organic carrots, for example. It might be just about the same, you know. So while we are like saving all these tiny bits of black truffle from the plates and like every little crumb and like having the perfect storage conditions for that black truffle, on the other end of the kitchen, we are throwing away like maybe some expensive other, maybe not so expensive, but a little bit expensive ingredients, you know, way higher amounts, which altogether it costs just about the same as you would throw away like 10 grams of black truffle. You would never throw away the black truffle, but you have no problem throwing away the root vegetable or carrots or parsnips or whatever it is, you know. So the weight, the combined weight of the other ingredients can surpass the price of the black truffle too. So what I'm saying here is, like, chefs or everyone, we already have the zero waste mindset, but we know how to save like every tiniest part of an ingredient, which is a black truffle, but we are just not applying it to like every vegetables in the same way. So this is really, again, just a mindset issue once again, because in the kitchen we are conditioned in this kind of thing, like, yeah, it's cheap, whatever, just put it in a bin. But if you put 50 kilo of it in a bin over a week, it's not so cheap anymore, you know. So in the times of COVID, especially, it makes even more sense, because it's not only you are obviously saving money by using all that you are ordering. Say, for example, broccoli, €3 a kilo. The stalk of the broccoli weighs half of the amount. So you are doubling the price of a broccoli every time you are not using the stalk of the broccoli. So it makes economical sense, and it also makes a sense in terms of like sales for customers, because your guests and customers, people are more and more really into the sustainability and the green initiatives and eco things and all these kind of things. So if you can promote yourself with that, you have these efforts in sustainability, using everything and all these kind, and I don't know, fighting food waste, people love it. You know, like, your customers love it. They find a connection to that, and they're gonna love it. You know, they're just gonna keep coming back to it. So it's just like a win-win-win situation to everyone. I really can't think of any downside of like creating a zero waste system in a kitchen. It just benefits the entire system, from the suppliers to the distributors to your chefs to you, because the chef's gonna thrive. They're gonna learn new skills. They're gonna get better at what they do. They're gonna be more connected with their food. Your guests gonna love you more. Your economics gonna get more, and you know, it's just a win-win situation.
yeah, and you described perfectly that you lose a lot of money value if you do not use the whole vegetable or fruit. But you, with your last quote here, we literally put more effort into creating waste than reducing it. You also mentioned that if you have three types of waste. There you have the preparation waste, the overproduction, the surplus, and the plate waste. If you focus on the overproduction, the surplus, if you have too much overproduction, you lose a lot of value, because you also put effort into it, effort in cooking it. Yeah. So what do you think about that? So we should not focus so much just on the cooking, but also on using everything.
Using everything, but if you look even further, then it doesn't start at the cooking. You know, it goes back. It was distributed to your restaurant. It was stocked somewhere in a warehouse or in the fridges, also the distributor. Then it was grown, and it was also distributed from the farm to there, and the seeds were sown, and the fields they were working on. You know, so the cycle is really long at the beginning. You know, someone was watering the vegetable, they were growing it, they were distributing it, they pack it, put it in a, I don't know, in a cardboard box, in a plastic box, and they're like, you bring it to your restaurant, and then your chefs handle it, you stir it, and then you peel it, you cook it, and bang, and then you waste it. You know, so like, so much work, and so much effort, time, money, and everything goes into it, and then in the end, when we as chefs in the kitchen are at the almost like the very end of the production cycle of that vegetable, and then we just put it in a bin. So that is where the problem happens. This is a problem, basically, because the overproduction is, again, having the mindset of something like just in case, or for whatever reason we have, but it's simply the solution is just have a plan for overproduction. Just like have a plan B, plan C, plan D, plan for everything. Always plan for like a worst case scenario while expecting the best case scenario. So even if like something bad happens in a kitchen and you happen to have like lots of food that is about to go in a waste, then I mean you have some idea, you know what to do with it, you have a backup plan for that, and then you save it. You create something, you know, like there are options with that, and like this is the part that I like about my job as a chef, like being creative, like kind of emergency situations, and like you know, like coming up with ideas for that, because that is like it's like helping everyone, right?
Yeah, but you said being creative. Do chefs have the possibility to be creative, or are they under so much pressure at the moment these days? And maybe we now go from the past, your book, congratulations again, to the present, and then maybe to finish with the future. The present, of course, the pandemic. What do you think about the pandemic, and what do you think about the time after the pandemic and the HoReCa business? HoReCa business is under a lot of stress. Some really have to see to survive. What is your forecast? What does your glass bowl tell you?
Of course, like hospitality, perhaps most heavily affected during the pandemic of all the industries. But I'm really kind of positive in that, because I think that like what's meant to survive will survive anyway, and the strongest always find the ways in that. And it's not only about money, but also about having a motivation, like being willing to change, because you need to adapt to change as fast as possible. It's always the ones who survives the most, or who survives it all, who's like willing to adapt to change. So whatever the change means. So I think that once all the limitations are over and the pandemic is over, I think the hospital is gonna spring back really fast. New companies gonna turn up, new restaurants gonna be open up. I see new restaurants opening during the pandemic here in Bratislava too. So we have just opened a terraces literally last week, and they are like banking full all day, all night if they could. They only open until 9 p.m. But you know, people want to go back. People are interested. People couldn't wait to get back to the restaurants. So really focus on being good. Like don't be like, yeah, whatever, like slow opening. Just make sure that you are really sharp and like have just like fill the expectations of your customers, because they were not waiting to get back to the same thing that they had before. You need to innovate. You need to come back. The times did change in some terms, and it will be different for hospitalities and chefs too. But just really make sure that you have the right motivation and you just do your job extremely well.
And what do you think about the staff shortage? I talked to Meirer, and he said that already before hospitality, before Corona, the pandemic, hospitality industry had problems to find good staff, and now maybe some said, okay, this is not a safe industry, a secure industry. We maybe look for another job. Did you have a lot of experience in the restaurant business? What do you think about the labor shortage? Is it a problem? Will it be a bigger problem in the future?
Yeah, it's already a problem. It's been a problem before, as you said, and even we are fighting with that. It's really, really hard to find not only good chefs, but in front of house and all kind of stuff in hospitality too. Well, the right question is like, why? You know, why is it so hard? It's because like what happened here is many chefs who've been chefs before just find the jobs in different industries, and they figured out that yeah, they kind of like it, yeah, it's better. So what the problem is here, that hospitality has such a bad reputation because of like overworking the staff, underpaying your staff, and like generally not such a good like well-being in your work environment, long hours, low pays, there's too much stress, like understaffed even before COVID. That is something to focus on, you know, like it is. I think we had a really great opportunity to create like a good working or a better working environment for hospitality in general, and we will be forced to do that because like no one can find the staff, and it just again it's about the time until we realize that we need to change. I mean, like working 16 to 18 hours for a minimum wage is just not okay. So there is a change needs to happen in that. So, and your financials and your kitchen system need to reflect on that change too. So we definitely gonna see, like, I think that's gonna be like a long-term change, and like over the lives is that, okay, like this is just not as attractive anymore as it was before, if it was even before at all. And the you know, if you are not really into just being a chef or really into like running the kitchen, then it's really hard to attract new staff and even the younger chefs. You know, like we just need to be more attractive in that, in terms of working hours, in terms of pay, in terms of working environment too. That has to change.
Well, but I think we really the HoReCa business has to change because we need it. Yeah, it's a restaurant is a place to socialize, a place to meet, when people talk to each other, and I think this is what we realized what we are missing so much during the pandemic. Yeah, and yesterday I saw on LinkedIn the first restaurant in China fully working with robots only. And I thought, oh my God, if this just stop, yeah. If this is the future, nobody will go in this restaurant, yeah. Nobody, well, at least I am not interested in going in a restaurant just working with robots, yeah. The cooking, the serving, everything, yeah. This would be the end of everything, yeah. So, yeah, we want humans, we want waiters, chefs we can talk to have a really authentic restaurant, and not wanting to talk to a robot. Yeah. So yeah. But what trends do you see in the HoReCa business? For example, you had a vegan restaurant. The fake meat or meat substitutes, Beyond Meat and so on are booming. Do you see this as a good solution? Do you see them as a future, or do you see it counterproductive? Because we are always focusing on still meat, although it's plant-based. What is your opinion on that?
If you're a meat lover, then it's your best solution. Because I think that the reason why these companies exist and these products coming to the market is mainly because of the industry farming problems that the world has, especially like in the United States, for example. Like industry farming is really a terrible problem to have, and that is kind of a solution. So for people who are not willing to give up on flavor, then the Beyond Burger is, I think, the best solution right after having a real burger. I'm not necessarily saying that these kind of products belong to restaurants. I see that more as a home cooking. You know, like if I eat Beyond Burgers, because if I want to have a burger, then I know for a fact that I cannot get a good quality local ground beef in this city, and I'm not willing to eat anything else. So I would rather have a Beyond Burger at home than buying some cheap beef. You know, like even the cheapest plant-based alternative is better than the cheapest animal product that was raised in terrible conditions with full of antibiotics and whatsoever. You know, so it's really a replacement of something that is not working now. And I would leave like the real meat products, something like a little treat once in a while, to have something when you know that you can afford and you're sure of the originality of the meat or the products that you are eating, then yeah, go for it. But buying eating these like alternative sausages or these kind of things are the next best solution after eating fully plant-based or like eating I still call it like a plant junk, like a vegan junk food, because it really is. You know, it's not meant to be anything more. It's a, you know, like if you go into the McDonald's, it's like already bad, like with this shitty beefs and like I don't know what kind of products. But at least if they try to replace those cheap beef with like a plant-based alternative, then it makes it like a tiny better. You know, so it's not as horrible as it was before, because at least now they are not like tortured cows or animals or something, you know, like that you are support with your burger. So this is where I really see that the products. I personally wouldn't put it in my restaurant, I think, because I just like to work with vegetables and like focusing on the nutrition too. But I mean, yeah, if you feel like you love meat and you need to have meat, then that is the next best thing that you can do.
Do you think that big fast food chains will, I don't know if maybe they offer it already, I don't go to them, but do you think the big well-named and known companies will adopt and also offer meat-free burgers looking like meat patties?
They do it already.
They do it already.
I'm not visiting them, but I see lots of advertisements and I follow these industries too. So I know that like McDonald's, Burger King and stuff, like they are actually like already competing in that, like who's using the best and who's using more. So it's nice to see something like that. Even though, yeah, of course, it's all about the profit. But if you're vegan, or if you really want to reduce your meat consumption, why not essentially, like, or you call it a treat, or you just like it, or is it the food that you eat? Then yeah, go for it. It will always be better than the meat products that they had before. So I think that is the main market for these kind of products, the fast food.
Yeah, but I think in the end, it's again, as you mentioned, it's all about everything about the cost. Coming back to the truffle cheap vegetable example, if for the huge fast food chains, it's cheaper to produce a meat-free burger, they will push it, yeah, because they can make more profit. Yeah, it's always about money, and yeah, do you think it would be a good idea to tax maybe real meat more? That I eat meat once a week, and I really looking forward to eat meat. Yeah, but I want to eat local organic meat and really celebrate it, and don't want to eat meat every day. Do you think it would help if we would tax meat to make it really expensive?
No, because who gets the tax? The government. What does the government has to be producing the meat? Nothing. So who pays for it? The consumer. You pay higher price, the tax goes to the government, the producer gets nothing. So what's the solution here is just stop the overproducing or the production at all. You don't need industry farming. It's a really inefficient way of feeding people in this age. I mean, we are in 2021. So, like, creating a plant-based burger takes up way more or less resources, like water, electricity, and space than raising a cow for that same burger. So, tax is available. That is the solution. Stop producing it in such amounts. I mean, the cost is barely going to change anything, because if you really want it, you're just going to buy it anyway, right? The cigarettes is higher and higher, the cost of it, year by year, but people still buying it. If you want to smoke, you're just going to buy it anyway, right?
Yeah. Maybe we make 3 last questions. Let me start with, you did a lot of, I don't know, job hopping, or you had a lot of worked with at different restaurants with different chefs. Can give us a little bit of an insight, please, for me as I have no background in the hospitality industry. How is it what do you learn from each step in your career, from each restaurant? What do you take with you? What chef, maybe what mentor did you admire most? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
You learn, like, every restaurant or every kitchen is kind of different, so you always learn a lot, like, every place. So this is what I really loved about my travels, that I was always loving absorbing information, like, all the time when I was entering new kitchens, meeting new people and new chefs, and seeing new ways of working, new techniques, new ingredients, new dishes, new menus, new environments, and new everything. So you're just, like, packing up an experience as much as possible. So that, I just love that. And my best, like, takeaway from all that, what I really like, is what's, like, really important in kitchens for chefs is having a discipline of, like, working really well in an organized, tidy, and timely manner. It's really something game-changing no matter what food you cook. It didn't really have any mentors, because I didn't spend, like, long enough time in any one place that I could call someone a mentor. There is chefs, of course, I like a lot. I think that do a very meaningful work with what they do. Of course, like, speaking names like René Redzepi, or well-known chefs like Matthew Orlando, maybe like Douglas McMaster of Zero Waste Restaurant in London. Those are all chefs that I admire a lot, and I think they do, like, excellent work, and they're really an example of what hospitality should be like in the future to everyone. Despite they are working in a high-end environment, I think the way they work in the system they have is something that could be, like, replace the systems in other kitchens too. Because speaking in terms of a kitchen system and a discipline and this kind of thing is something that you can apply no matter what kitchen you are at and no matter what food you are cooking.
But you mentioned high-end cooking. What does a Michelin star, for example, mean to you? Is it a goal you want to achieve once, or?
To me personally, it doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry, Michelin, but I don't need, like, acknowledgement of my cooking from someone who don't even know who they are and what experience they have with cooking. So I'm really on the side of Chef Pierre Marco White from England, who once said something along the lines of like, don't let your work be judged with people who have less knowledge than you. Because you really know nothing about Michelin inspectors. You really don't know what they are, what mood they are in that day, or you know exactly nothing. So 1-star, 3-star, or no star makes no difference to me. I care about the quality. I care about the service. I care about the attitude of the restaurant and the staff. And that is something that like Michelin is highly political. I'd say you have lots of Michelin star restaurants in France, in Italy, and in the western part of Europe. But it doesn't mean that in other parts of the world you can't find good restaurants. So personally, to me, I have no goal of ever achieving Michelin star. I actually don't care about like any acknowledgements of these kind of prizes or whatever they are.
Yeah, but I really like your attitude to that. But if someone would, maybe if the Michelin auditor would visit your restaurant, what would be your signature dish? What would you serve? What do you think? What is your best dish, or what do you like most?
One signature dish perhaps from like Cambodia when I was cooking was a really favorite for the customers was like a smoked pumpkin. It was like a local Cambodian pumpkin that is like very dense it's like very dense and like water heavy in a texture. So I was like marinating this in a miso base for 2 days, and then I was like slow roasting it on a garlic oil. Then I was like pan frying it, and I just smoked it just before serving. And I served like a strong mustard miso garlic sauce with it, which it meant to be kind of like a meat course on my tasting menu without using like a meat, like having all the meaty flavors in there, like a red pepper too, like a roasted, smoky, marinated notes with like a side of a homemade ferment. So I think I would just go for that because there was something really that like loved by many meat lovers and many non-vegans in my restaurants was like praising that dish as something like really flavorful. So I think like I would stick to that. I really enjoy like marinating vegetables and like intensifying the flavors. Like I just like replacing the meat in notes in a vegetable dishes.
Yeah, but you explain in your book very well how much effort you put into that pumpkin. Yeah, you treat it like meat, and I think this is what is my take home message from your book to look at the vegetable as it would be meat or fish. Yeah, to treat it the same way, and then you get more taste, more flavor out of it. Huh? Last question: what about your future? What are you doing at the moment? What are your goals for the next 1, 2, 3 years?
I wish I would know, but right now I'm just working as a chef at the moment, and I'm doing like working with different kind of businesses, like doing like a private chef kind of things too, and consulting here and there as the situation allows, because I had to cancel a lot of things because of the pandemic. I'll try to get back to it, but I will focus more on the online side of the business. That is my plan, at least for that year. I'd love to like spread more information about like or bring the knowledge out in between chefs. Focusing on my book also too, because like trying to get it into as many restaurants as possible, because I think this is something that the chefs really need at the moment, and like they generally just like staff trainings and like like bringing chefs into the zero waste space and the zero waste minds, and like focusing more on the online side of the business, because I think there is a way forward during these times.
Great. So I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was very interesting. I had a lot of fun, and yeah, all the best.